Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, I'll be taking you on something really important. This is something that most businesses, most individuals, most entrepreneurs, most anything you find yourself in see a problem in. It's called productivity. How do you become productive? How do you not waste your time? How do you not waste your life? How do you, from this moment henceforth, demonstrate and exhibit productivity in whatever it is that you do? I'm going to help you with that. There are at least 5 levels of inadequacies. If you find yourself in any of these levels, you'll be so inadequate that you find it difficult to demonstrate or exhibit productivity. These are the hierarchies of inadequacy. After discussing the hierarchies of inadequacy, in the next time I see you or the next time I come your way, I would be teaching you on how to really be productive in mastering your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and traits as an individual, not as a business. But for today, we'll be discussing the hierarchy of inadequacy. Now, the first hierarchy of inadequacy have to do with wishful thinking. If you find yourself in this category, these are people that spend almost all the day, all their time, wishing that they had one resource or the other in creating whatever word or vision that they want to create. These are people that sees impediment in their vision, that sees a problem in every opportunity. They either wish they had something that they did not have in order to start. Now, I have to let you in on this. If you have an idea that requires the elements that you don't have to start it, it's a wrong idea. It's the right idea if it requires what you have, even though it will require beyond you to finish or continue. It's the right idea if it requires what you have. Now, there are 3 different aspects when it has to do with manifesting an idea into something that is productive. Number 1 has to do with the idea in actuality, the wishful things you think, and this is usually where most people stop, just wishing that they had this and all that. Number 2 has to do with the implementation, not just the idea conceived, but the idea implemented, the actions that are taken. What is the next step? Even if there are so many steps to be taken, and most of these steps require the resources you don't have, there's usually one next step to take. And this next step have to involve the resource you have. And outside the idea implementation, you also need confidence. These 3 elements makes up the success of every single idea. Confidence is so important because even if you have the right idea, you have the right action, if you have the wrong confidence, people can perceive this and see that it's incomplete. Confidence is the fragrance of the idea, of the work that you do. It's just like after dressing up. Imagine dressing up and smelling so bad. That is exactly what working and having no confidence means. Confidence is the fragrance of your works. Every single time you have an idea and you implement an action, you need to show confidence. You need to show people that you're in charge of the things you do. So rather than leaving this idea in your head as a wishful thinking, you need to implement it as an action, and you need to back it up with confidence. Now, this is just the first level of inadequacy. The second level have to do with activities. There are a whole lot of people that spend their whole time running around doing all sorts of things, one activity to the other. They are really never productive. How do you differentiate that this is productivity and not just activity? Every single productive engagement is measurable. If you can measure the activity to show a progression of results, then it's a productivity and not just an activity. If it cannot be measured, it's an activity. If you spend the entire day doing something and you can't see the result of what you did, you just manifested an activity and it's nothing productive. Every single thing that is productive can be measured. Now, when it has to do with measuring your activities, there are two ways you do that. Number one is using an acceptable metric. Let's say you've been working and you started with $1,000, and right now you have $1 million. You can measure and see that these have been productive. I can tell that money have increased from where it used to be to where it is right now. Now outside money, it could be people. Maybe you used to be surrounded by a circle of friends that think in low resolution, and right now you are surrounded by a circle of friends that think in high resolution. That is a metric that can measure that this is not just activities, this is not just running around, that this is productive. If not, you waste your time running around doing rubbish, just exhausting your energy, and at the end you have nothing to show for it. If you spend all the time doing the wrong thing, you will never get the right result. So yes, activity is one of the enemies of productivity. What that means is you can have a productive engagement that is active, right? But most times you can end up having activities that is not productive. It's why you need it to be measured by one, a metric, and number two have to be learning outside a metric. Learning means, what is the thing that you have learned in the course of your interaction with this productive engagement or with this activity? What have you learned? Because most times things cannot really be measured with a metric, and you need it to be demonstrated in a learning experience. Now, how do you tell you have learned something? Number one has to do with self-preservation, and number two have to do with opportunity identification. If you can preserve self and you can identify opportunities, you have learned. And that is a metric for measuring if this was productive and not just active. You know, if they expose you to the same thing and you make the same decision, you haven't learned anything. Improved decision on the same exposure is the evidence of learning, and this can be exemplified, like I said, in identifying new opportunities or preserving self. It's like a little child. If you leave a little child, they are always trying to self-harm, do something, jump off a cliff, like they have a suicidal wish or something. But imagine growing up and you're still having those urges, like a child wanting to burn down the house and all that. That is an evidence that you haven't learned anything, because you're making the same decision when you're being exposed to the same situation. But an improvement in your decision making with the same exposure to the same environment is an evidence that you have learned a thing. So yes, something has to measure the activity to show that it has become productive. So wishful thinking, activity. The next level of inadequacy have to do with singulated productivity. What does singulated productivity mean? There are three resources that is required in manifesting productivity. Number one has to do with time. Number two have to do with people. And number three has to do with money. These three elements are what are required to manifest productivity: time, people, money. Now, it is possible that you could focus on just one of these elements, just one of these aspects, maybe just time. Spend your entire time doing a thing, while you have the people around you who you could also invest or help in manifesting productivity. It's not just your time you invest, and it's not just money you invest. You also invest people in achieving a thing. So it has become singulated productivity when what you invest is either one of these three elements, either money, time, or people. It's usually the three of them at once. There are people who have money come into their hands all the time, they have never invested this in themselves. They have never invested their money in running ads. They have never invested their money in reading books. They have never invested their money in improving self. They have only invested their time in creating the thing. These three elements, not just the singulated one of them, but the three of them have to be invested for productivity to be manifested: money, time, and people. Now, the next level other than singulated productivity is substituted productivity. That is the most interesting level, and here is where I would indulge your attention. There are at least 6 areas in your life that transformation is required. You know, every single time you become productive, you also become transformed. So how do you make sure that you are not just substituting these areas that you're supposed to get transformed in, but rather you're interchanging them? Now, here are the 6 areas. Number 1 have to do with your mind. Your mind is an area that you need to transform as you interact productively in your daily activities. Number 2 have to do with your finances. You can have your mind improved, but your finances can be poor. Now, number 3 have to do with your relationship, how you interact with people and how you interact with yourself, interpersonal and intrapersonal relationship. Now, number 4 have to do with your skills. What are the things that you learn? What are your crafts? What are those, most people call it hobbies, but these are skills. What do you have, any competence that can facilitate excellence? What are the things you're good at, right? So outside your money, your mind, your skills, your relationship, your health, it's important that you recognize that the vessel that moves this productive engagement and transformation forward, it's your body. The things you put on your body and the things you put in your body is an area you pay attention to. And then finally, for a particular kind of people that have an acceptance for things that are spiritual, your spirit. These are 6 areas that you manifest transformation in: your spirit, your money, your mind, your body, your relationship, and your finances. Now, here is what most people do. Most people assume that if they have one of these areas covered, if they have one of these areas in high performance of excellence, that all they need to do is to substitute it for the other area. It's why you hear people say something like, and this is also low resolution thinking, where most people say something like, chase the money and the women will follow you. Now, that is a statement that claims that you can convert finances to a good relationship, and it's not true. Why? Because as important as finances are, relationships are also equally important, and these are 2 areas you have to also pay attention to. So most people believe that you should substitute one of this area for the other, especially most spiritual people who pray. They believe just by praying and praying and praying that by default that their finances should be awesome. But these are not areas you substitute. These are areas that you interchange. You can change one of these areas and manifest them into the other, but you can't substitute it for another. If not, you become incompetent. Now, here is how you interchange one for the other and not substitute one. There is a law and a principle of interchangeability of every single thing, and it states that every single thing that exists can be interchanged as long as you have a connection with the first and you understand the principle that governs the second. You can interchange one for the other as long as you have a connection with the first and you understand the principle that governs the second. What that means is, if you have a good relationship, you have a good friends around you, you know someone really important, you can convert that to money, you can convert that to health, you can convert that to knowledge, mind, you can convert that to anything. Not that you can substitute it for the other. It is converted, not substituted. That means these 6 areas are always evidently present, but one can be converted to the other and still be maintained. But what does it mean to have a connection with the first? It means that you can place a demand on the resources of the first, and you also understand the principle that governs the second. What that means is, even if you know a very prominent and important person, that is, knowing them is different from having a connection from them, because you can know them and they really don't have your time. So having access to their resources, which is their time, their money, their people, means you have a connection to them. But that is not still enough. You have to understand the principle that governs the second element you're converting into. So you have a connection with a prominent person who has a lot of money, but you have no understanding of the principle that governs finances. So even if they give you all the money on earth, you still reduce it to nothing. It's how you get broke. Even if you learn, you go online and take all the courses and pay for every single course on earth, and you understand, you have a connection with your mind, your mental health is awesome, but you have no understanding of the principle that governs establishing a business. You can't convert that knowledge into a business, or you can't convert that knowledge into money. Same thing with spirituality. Even if you pray all you want and you have no understanding of the principle that governs finances, you can't convert that prayer into money. So yes, these are areas that are interconverted, not substituted. Now, the final level of inadequacy in the hierarchy of inadequacy have to do with waiting for opportunity. Now, we have discussed wishful thinking, we discussed activity, we discussed substituted productivity, we discussed singulated productivity, and now finally waiting for opportunities. What most people do is to wait for opportunities all their life, because they have this concept that success is when preparation meets opportunity. But now I'll give you a better definition, because success is not actually that. There are three levels of success when it has to do with preparation. Number one have to do with preparation meeting opportunity. The better and higher level have to do with preparation creating opportunity. And the third level have to do with preparation becoming opportunity. Now, what does this mean? The lowest level people operate on, which is preparation meeting opportunity, they never most time get to meet opportunity. The better and the higher level to operate on is preparation creating opportunity. What that means is you're never prepared enough until your preparation can create an opportunity for you. You keep preparing until you see an opportunity. So success is not when preparation meets opportunity. Success is when preparation creates opportunities. So you're not prepared enough until your preparation have created an opportunity for you. And this level have kept people bound, just waiting, because you can't really tell you've prepared. It's not just spending time in probably doing some minor things and just hoping that somebody, most people just hope and pray that they meet somebody someday. It's the kings and rulers of nations and the most important people. They don't come to people who are prepared. They come to people whose preparation have created an opportunity. They come to opportunity. They are attracted to the light of men. And that light symbolizes opportunity. So you're not prepared enough until your preparation have created an opportunity. And these are the levels of inadequacy. If you find yourself in any of this level of inadequacy, you'll always be inadequate and not productive. And the next time, I'll be teaching you on how to manifest productivity. How do you get things done? How do you not get to be distracted by social media? How do you not spend your entire day doing nonsense and rubbish? How do you not waste the next year of your life? How do you not waste the next week? How do you become a beast under control? How do you work productively to not just make ends meet, but to become the opportunities for others to see? I'll be discussing that when next we see. So do have a lovely day and see you when next.